But Kirby Smart, we know that there is a ton that Kirby Smart has on the line coming into this game. And so let's talk about what this game means for the Georgia program and for Kirby Smart as a whole as they get set to play for their second national championship in 5 years. Because I'm a glasses half full guy, let's start with the positive. Let's start with what does this mean if Kirby Smart wins the national championship game on Monday night? If he fulfills the prophecy that Aaron Torres put out there into the ethos back in August when I picked Georgia to win the national championship, how about my dogs? What does it mean for Kirby Smart? What does it mean for Georgia? Well, first of all, what I would say is this. I think Kirby Smart becomes a much more likable figure. I know that has nothing to do with football, this, that, the other thing. But I do think that we kind of sort of rally around Kirby Smart if he wins this game. And I know it sounds crazy, right? Kirby is not Mr. Personality. He's not Mr. Dynamicism, if that's even a word. He's not, he's not whoever. I'm trying to think of the interesting characters that we've had. He's not Les Miles. He's not Barry Switzer. He's not Dabo. He's not full of energy. He's not interesting outside of football. But I do think we rally around him for two reasons. One, it's because I think there's a lot of people that are tired of seeing Alabama win all these national championships. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. We're going to talk about it with Nick Saban in a minute, and we'll certainly talk about it if he wins on Monday night. I think we need to just enjoy and appreciate Nick Saban for everything he is and everything he's done in this sport. But I do think there's a lot of people that are going to sit there and say, ding dong, the witch is dead, if Nick Saban were to lose this game. Now, I don't think the program's dead. I don't think he's dead. But I think for 1 year, we get joy in seeing that Nick Saban isn't the best, that somebody has beaten him in ways like Dabo Swinney beat him a few years ago in Santa Clara, like Dabo Swinney beat him a few years before that with Deshaun Watson. And I do think a lot of people do not want to see Nick Saban win a national championship once again. But beyond that, I think there's something kind of on a personal level with Kirby Smart where I do think people would be happy for him if Georgia won the national championship. And I know he's kind of the SEC's punching bag, but don't we do this all the time in sports? We pick on somebody, we say they stink, we say they can't do this, we say they can't do that, and then they do it, and we love them. That kind of happened with Jim Harbaugh this year, didn't it? We made fun of Jim Harbaugh. Can't get over the top. Can't win the games that matter. Here's his record versus 0-10 opponents. Here's his record versus Michigan State. Here's his record versus Ohio State. Then he beat Ohio State. Then he won the Big Ten, and everybody loves him. He might be an NFL head coach in 2 weeks or 2 days because everybody loves Jim Harbaugh, and I really got the sense that by the end of the season, everybody really loved the Jim Harbaugh story of beating his head against the wall, finally gets the win, finally beats Ohio State, finally does it for his university, and I think it's going to be the same with Kirby Smart. For years, stayed with Nick Saban, helped him build this dynasty, finally gets the perfect job for him to leave, can't get over the hump, and then he finally does. But beyond that, I don't think it's just about, confetti falling on Kirby Smart and him doing whatever. I think this is huge. If Georgia were to win this game for the entire Georgia football program and maybe for college football as a whole in terms of a second program consistently elevating to the level of Alabama. For a few years, we thought it was going to be Ohio State, and they never really got there where they were kind of on equal footing with Alabama. For a few years, Clemson got there, but I think they dropped off a little bit here over the last 18 months or so. But is Georgia that team that is finally on the level of Alabama, specifically in the SEC? Because I think you can make that case. Because right now, what is Georgia as a football program? Georgia as a football program is basically in that tier of teams that's really, 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 really good, but they're not Bama, right? Like right now in college football, what is the hierarchy? It's Bama, way up top. And then below them, it's probably Clemson, who's been in the title hunt for about a 6-7 year stretch, won 2 national championships over that stretch. I think Ohio State's probably on the level of Clemson. And then below that, you have 4, 5, 6 programs that are really, really, really good, but they're not Bama. And right now, they're not even really, you can't, I don't want to say they're not close, but you can't put them in the same conversation. Oklahoma's there. Multiple playoff appearances, multiple Big 12 titles, really fun program. They ain't Bama. Notre Dame, I talk about Notre Dame all the time. I think Brian Kelly, for all the criticism, did about as well as anybody could at Notre Dame in this era of college football, but they ain't Bama. Same with Michigan, 10-win seasons consistently, can't get over the hump, finally win the Big Ten. But we saw the other day against Georgia, they ain't anywhere close to the top of the sport. And I think Georgia is somewhere kind of in that conversation. Really, 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 really good, but they ain't there yet. They ain't Bama. And I do think if they were to win this game, it completely changes everything for them because now there's nothing you can hold against them, right? Because if coming into this game, the one thing you can hold against Georgia, whether it's in recruiting, whether it's in the media, whether it's in coverage, whatever, they're really good, but they ain't Bama. And so why this is important is because Kirby Smart is already recruiting at an insane level. But if you don't think that he's not losing a kid or two or three or four or however many it is to Bama, you're out of your mind. I mean, Ryan Fowler's my buddy, hosts radio Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa, and I remember him telling me a year or two ago they had a kid on the show who committed to Alabama. I forget what player it was. I don't know who it was off the top of my head. But basically, the kid said on radio, he asked him why he picked Alabama over Georgia, and he goes, why would I drink Diet Pepsi when I could drink the real thing? Why would I drink Diet Coke when I could drink why would I go to the school that's almost Bama, but not quite? Well, can you imagine now how well Kirby Smart is recruiting? Everything that he's built this program into. If he now gets over the hump and beats Bama, oh my goodness, it's on. Every recruit in the country, there's nothing that you can't sell to a kid now because you're already playing in the SEC. You're already winning a ton of games. You're already competing at the highest levels of the sport. Now you can come here and win a national championship. Let me just use this as an example. Caleb Williams, we're going to talk about him later in the show. What's the big knock on Caleb Williams as the conversation about potentially Georgia being a factor in his recruitment? Well, the conversation is you go there, you're going to be really good, but they haven't won the national championship. Now, maybe that's the pitch to Caleb Williams. Come here and put us over the top. Well, now Caleb Williams, he knows he can come and win a national championship. Every kid in America knows they can come to Georgia and win a national championship. And so that's what I think from a positive perspective, that's what it does for Georgia. For at least 1 year, you are on the level of Bama. Nobody can tell you otherwise. You beat Bama on a neutral field in a game that matters. You can go anywhere. You can recruit anybody. You can sell anything. There's nobody that can tear you down in terms of negative recruiting. Those are the positives, and that is what is at stake for Georgia if they were to win this game. There's just one problem, though. What happens if Georgia loses this game? Because boy, oh boy, oh boy, do I think that becomes a fascinating conversation. First of all, you're exactly what I just said you were a minute ago. You're one of those really, really, really good programs, but you ain't Bama. You ain't Bama. You'll never be Bama. You'll always be Nick Saban's son. I'm not saying that's fair, but I am saying that is the conversation. Really, really, really good program, but you're not quite there. And I do think at some point it does, if you can't eventually get over the hump. And I dropped the stat on Friday's show. Kirby Smart is currently 0-5 against Alabama right now, this second. Obviously, if he were to lose Monday, he'd be 0-6. And the concern, if you're a Georgia fan, the concern if you're going into recruiting is the games are getting more one-sided, right? You know, the first matchup was the iconic national championship game, 2nd and 26. You're up at halftime, you lose. Final play of the game, Tua to Devontae Smith. Well, that was year 2. That was mostly Mark Richt's players, and we're going to get there. We'll get over the hump. Then the next year happens. You're in the SEC title game. You have a chance to beat them. You're up at halftime. Tua gets hurt. They bring in Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts leads them to a victory. But again, close game, can't quite get over the hump. But the last 3 times coming into Monday night, those games haven't been all that competitive. It wasn't competitive last year when you played in Tuscaloosa when Mac Jones threw the ball all over you. It wasn't competitive, this past time in the SEC championship game. And so now if you lose once again as Kirby Smart to Nick Saban, I mean, it's just becoming increasingly harder to explain away these losses and explain away, everything that has happened in this rivalry since Kirby Smart took over. By the way, I think I said that Kirby Smart was 0-5 against Nick Saban coming into Monday night. He is 0-4. It's also worth noting, though, that in the year that LSU won the national championship, they lost to LSU in dominant fashion as well. And so really, over the last 5 years, Alabama, the one team that ascended to Alabama's level, you lost to all of them. And that is why I think that is where you start to become concerned if you're a Georgia fan. Because, again, you lose to Bama in year 2, well, it's Mark Richt's players. You lose to Bama in year 3, well, we're on the cusp, we're right there, we're going to get over the hump. Well, now guess what? It ain't year 2 anymore. It ain't year 3 anymore. It is year 6 for Kirby Smart in Athens. And you are officially out of excuses if you do not win this game. And I do think the conversation becomes, will you ever win one of these games? Because if you win this game, then you've knocked off everybody there is to knock off. You knock off Bama today. Tonight, whatever. You beat Clemson earlier in the year. You beat Michigan in the playoff. You beat Notre Dame twice over this run. You beat Oklahoma. There's nobody else left to topple if you're Georgia. But if you lose this game, then it becomes, I don't know, right? It becomes, it's year 6 now, and you cannot win the games that matter. Can't beat Nick Saban. Can't beat Ed Orgeron when he had one of the best teams in college football history, and that would be my concern. Because, again, that starts to get used against you in recruiting because it's now year 6, is not year 3, and you start to look at some of the other programs that Georgia consistently recruits against. Alabama, they're already using it against you. Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M, just signed the number 1 class in the country. Well, that dude just won a national title. That dude has a national title. That is what he's selling, and he can continue to sell that against Georgia when he's going head-to-head with Georgia for recruits. Dabo Swinney's won multiple national titles. He can continue to sell that. Ryan Day, Lincoln Riley, they at least play a fun system. Billy Napier, Josh Heupel, they're on the way up. They're not even close, but come here and be part of a team that beats Georgia. You don't want to go there. They don't win the big games anyway. And so that is what Kirby Smart has to go against, and that is the negativity that is going to hover over this program for the next 8 months if he does not win this game. And I think it's longer than 8 months. This is where I would be concerned if I was a Georgia fan, is that I don't think this loss just lingers into August and then we move past it, and here's why. It's because Bryce Young's only a sophomore. Bryce Young is coming back. He's technically a redshirt freshman, but you get the point. He's in his second year. He's got 1 year left before he can leave for the NFL. Bryce Young still has another year. And so if you lose this game, and you lose maybe even in dominant fashion, you know what then happens? It becomes not only a 1 year cycle of you can't get past Bama. Let's talk about it. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, into SEC Media Days. It becomes you got to spend all of the 2022 season now worrying about, we're going to have to play Bama at some point. They have the guy that just beat us twice. How are we going to get over the hump? And I just think that could be a lot of negativity around this program. Finally, what I would say, I have one other thought on Georgia and this game and the legacy for Kirby Smart, and that's this. I do think that, let me even backtrack. I think that for the most part, I actually think Georgia fans appreciate Kirby Smart. Yes, they're frustrated in the moment, can't beat Bama, whatever. But I think they understand this thing is better than where it was. And I know if Kirby Smart loses to Nick Saban on Monday night, there's going to be some stat about, well, this is Kirby Smart's record through 6 years versus Mark Richt, and it's really no different. As somebody who lived through both eras, I'm telling you right now it's different, okay? Georgia is right on the cusp. You can argue that right now they're the second best program in college football with the way that Clemson seems to be descending with this transfer portal stuff, with the way Ohio State has to completely revamp its roster in the offseason, its defense in the offseason, with the way that Michigan might not even have a head coach in a couple weeks, with the way that Brian Kelly just left Notre Dame. So I think that for the most part, even if you're to lose, I do think there is a mourning period, there's a frustrating period, and all the things I said are true. It's still going to hurt you in recruiting. You still have to deal with it for 8-9 months going into next season, and then 3-4 months during the season knowing you're going to have to face Bryce Young at one point. But I do think Georgia fans, for the most part, they understand where they are, and they're, for the most part, appreciative. Why do I bring it up? I do think there is one situation that could happen on Monday night that could turn Kirby Smart the fan base on Kirby Smart forever, and that's this. And we'll talk about it more when we get to the preview of the game itself. But I had this thought on Saturday when I was hosting my Fox Sports Radio show with Jason Martin. He brought it up. I thought it was a great point, and I want to expand on it. And that's this. I think there is one circumstance in which Kirby Smart could lose the fan base forever on Monday night, and that's this. If they fall down early, if Bryce Young is clearly the better quarterback than Stetson Bennett, it's not even close, it's not even competitive, and he sticks with Stetson Bennett through the end of the game, or at the very least with Stetson Bennett long enough where it's not even in doubt, and then maybe you put in JT Daniels late when the game is in doubt. Why do I bring that up? It is because I think that if Alabama wins this game 30-24, and Stetson Bennett plays pretty well, I think Georgia fans can go into the offseason saying, we were clearly the second-best team this year. We're the second-best program in college football. And that dude over there in Tuscaloosa is just a cyborg. And there's nothing we can do about it. I think Georgia fans, I don't want to say they can live with it, but you can internalize it. The one thing that they can't live with is if they lose on Monday and they know their head coach didn't do every single thing that he could do to win this game. And every single thing may include a quarterback change in the middle of the game. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not rooting against Stetson Bennett, but I did talk about this after the SEC championship game 3 or 4 weeks ago. I said, look, Kirby Smart, he owes it to his team to do everything he can to help to win this game. And at some point in that game against Alabama, they needed a jolt. They needed an answer. They needed something different because what they were doing was not working, okay? And so I bring it up because of the fact that if you have JT Daniels on the bench and things go sideways, you have to bring him in. You saw Nick Saban do it 5 years ago, and it won you a national championship if you're Alabama, changing Jalen Hurts for Tua Tagovailoa. If you are down in this game and you do not bring in JT Daniels, I think that is an unforgivable sin that Kirby Smart may never be able to recover from. Because it's one thing to lose a game. It's one thing to lose against the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport. But it is quite another. It's quite another to lose when you didn't do every single thing you could do to win.